Are you wanting to be training into older age? Do you want to look good and lift weights but don't want to be struggling with your joints later in life? Then this is the video for you. We're going to go through 5 approaches that you can utilize now in order to help with longevity of joints later in life. Hi, my name's Rob from AMR. Now, this isn't for people who compete in things like powerlifting or strongman or love lifting heavy stuff and want to get records now and aren't thinking 20 years down the line. But if you're not competing and you just enjoy lifting weights, want to look good and you're not so bothered about the numbers and still want to be going strong into later life, then this is for you. Now, if just looking at hypertrophy for building muscle, it appears to be much more about how you lift than how much you lift. And it seems to all come down to reaching failure within a given exercise. You do need a progressive overload, but this can be done still keeping joint longevity in mind. Now, one of the best things for joint health is loading them. The not so good thing is overloading them. The issue a lot of time with pushing heavier and heavier in the gym is that muscle will adapt a lot quicker than structures around the joint will. So you can lift the weight and have the strength to do it in the muscle, but joint structures might not handle it as well, and little niggles, aches and pains start appearing. So let's look at 5 things you can do for longevity of the joints while training in the gym. Number 1 is utilization of tension and tempo. If you're looking for hypertrophy, then you're wanting around 40 to 60 seconds of tension on the muscle. And ideally, that'll be a load where you're reaching failure within that time frame. Keeping tension is meaning not locking out for that quick rest, but keeping the muscle continuously working through that time. So if you're doing 8 reps of an exercise, that means you need to take at least 5 seconds for each rep, which might look like 4 seconds eccentric and 1 second concentric. That's very different to just bashing 8 reps out and thinking, that was light, I can go heavier. A lot of the time, especially if truly keeping that tension, you'll have to go a lot lighter. This is actually better for the muscle and for hypertrophy with the increased time, and also easier on the joints. Then it's a progressive overload sticking to this technique. Range the reps from 8 to 12 with that 5-second tempo time for each rep, and then you'll be hitting that 40 to 60 second mark, and then load it enough so you're actually hitting failure within that range. Number 2 is the pre-exhaust method. This is where you tire out the desired muscle, usually with an isolation exercise, before going into the compound movement where you'd normally lift heavier. There's different approaches for this. You can do a direct superset. For example, you might do lateral raises and then a shoulder press straight after. A lateral raise is a lighter exercise generally, but that then means you'll have to go lighter on the shoulder press as the shoulder muscles are already slightly fatigued. So you'll still be getting the muscle working and going to failure, but with reducing load through the joints as you do it. This can be done with chest, such as doing plate raises before a bench press, or legs with leg extension before a squat. Another way to do it is reversing the order of your workout. Most of the time, programming we set up so that you do your compound exercises first, because that's where you're going to be the most strong and that's the one that you're going to lift heaviest on. Then finishing on isolation exercises or accessory work afterwards. But this time it's doing all the isolation and accessory work first, which will be lighter, and then finishing on the compound work, where you'll have to go lighter due to prior fatigue, but you can still really push that muscle to failure, and that's where you're getting the best of both. Number 3 is changing rest periods. This is another great way to get increased muscle fatigue with a lighter weight, just reducing that rest period down. Normally, if you're going pure strength, you want a load of rest time over 2 minutes for sure. Whereas if using this other approach with longevity in mind, this can be reduced to under a minute and actually stick to that time as well. You'll find, especially when combining with tempo, you'll get just as much benefit with a lot lighter weight and probably get the added benefit of increased cardio work in there as well. Number 4 is higher reps on compound exercises. Generally, the powerlifting moves like the squat, the bench and the deadlift are used with a low rep range, normally that kind of 3 to 6 mark, but they don't have to. You can do squats and deadlifts for reps of 12, getting the benefit of a great exercise. It'll also give you a bit of a cardio workout along the way and way less stress going through the joints because you're having to use a lighter load to get to the higher rep range. If you're combining this stuff when doing squats with tension and tempo and reduced rest periods, trust me, you're going to know about it. Number 5 is a proper warm-up. Now, we all know this makes sense, but I know for me, I rarely did it consistently. And when we're talking warm-ups, I'm not talking about just going on the bike before doing a bench press, more doing lighter sets of the exercise you're about to do with graded build-up of weight until getting to the working sets. And not just one quick warm-up set and then straight into working sets. Do at least 2 to 3 warm-up sets gradually heavier on each before getting into the main stuff. Then even when you've done that for the first exercise, still do that on the next exercises as well. Don't just do a really good bench warm-up, for example, and then go straight into flies after you've finished it. Warm up on that as well. The joints are working in a different way. The muscles might be good to go, but make sure everything else is as well. Try out these points now to help with longevity of the joint while still being able to lift weights and look good. And if you're wanting to look for alternatives of things like the squat and the deadlift, then check out these videos here.